Hello all, I hope you're doing well. Given the core of this channel is spirituality, specifically masculine spirituality, that implies an initiatory journey, I thought I'd draw out the 5 key truths of initiation as I see them. And today we're going to start at the top, as you may well do, and that's with the great harsh truth of life. And this is the first thing that we really have to accept if we want to advance as men, but advance spiritually as well. And the way that we could explain this might be something like life is hard, life is challenge. And this is so important because it brings us to that great spiritual truth. And that's that the wounding is actually the way of growth. We see the wounding throughout all forms of spiritual symbology, whether it's Christ on the cross, the wounding there is obvious, but he's also pierced in his side as well while he's dying. We also have the Buddha. He goes through the suffering of life. He realizes ultimate pain is everywhere and suffering is inescapable. Then we also have stories of Wodan, a European pagan god. He must lose his eye in order to gain true vision. Of course, in our modern era, we would see these as just silly stories, flying spaghetti monsters and so on. But let's try and let go of the intellectual mind a bit and think what these things are trying to show us spiritually. The first thing that I think we could draw on is something like it's a real challenge to our contemporary understanding of what life is about. In the physical realm, we could say it's something like Darwin's survival of the fittest. And even though many of the people who hold to Darwin's worldviews may not say that they believe that when it comes to a social order, they may be more, rational humanists and so on who believe in quote-unquote centre-left liberal values. At the root of it is still an underlying assumption that winning in this world equals survival and survival equals success. Now we see this, of course, replicated in our sports. A lot of our day-to-day obsessions are to do with, did our sports team win? Or did I win? Did I win in my battle at work? Did I win the girl? Did I lose the girl? And so on and so on. Now, I'm not saying that these things aren't important in our lives and it's necessarily wrong to engage in them. It's part of a human life. But they're not fundamental to what life is. And what the spiritual traditions really show us is that it's not about winning. You remember Charlie Sheen, poor old Charlie Sheen, when he was smashed out of his mind on, crack and booze and whatever else. He was saying when he was being interviewed by the American press, which was somewhat bemused by his behaviour, that he was winning. I win here, I win there, I win everywhere. But poor old Charlie, we could see that he wasn't really winning. And somewhere in there is the great spiritual truth. It's a very extreme example of what we can all do. Oh, I'm winning. But are you really winning when it looks to the true structure of your life, the true trajectory of your life? And this is what the great spiritual teachings are showing us, that we're not really winning, or even if we are, it's an illusion of towards what true life really is. This is why Christ often speaks about the idea of losing your life in order to find it. It can seem illogical in, again, an age of rational scientific humanism, but again, what he's saying here is letting go of our worldly results in order to truly find who and what we are. And this is where we come to the first real journey of initiation. And that could be described as something like submission, real challenge. And the idea of that first challenge is to lose, not to win. That's why for many people, they're just not interested in what I would call true mystical spirituality, because they play this game to win. And they play this game to win because their ego wants to win. But true spiritual growth, true spiritual life isn't about the ego. It's about true realization. It's about what is beyond the individual self. This is put quite nicely by one of the best writers on initiation of the 20th century, Robert Moore. I'm getting this from his text, The Archetype of Initiation. It's a heavy text, but if you're really interested in this stuff, one worth picking up. He states, people really get a bee in their bonnet these days if you talk to them about submission. Submission is not a popular value today. Ever since the Enlightenment, when autonomy emerged as a central cultural value, submission has fallen on hard times. It's quite clear to me, however, that there must be a submission to process. Now, why would we need to submit to process? Modern man hates submission. You feel like a loser. Well, another good writer from the 20th century on initiation, especially from a Christian angle, is Richard Rohr. Now, for those who might be interested in Richard Rohr, he's a Catholic mystic. He's excellent on initiation, but he does tend to veer, in my view, more towards a worldly, modern-day pre-woke politicism, which I don't think is very attractive at all. But if you can overlook that, he does have a lot of wisdom. And he states, quote, "Without a fall or major dunking into the central mystery, a person has no chance of swimming in the right ocean. It is the necessary journey from the false self to the true self. Without such a great defeat, we will misinterpret almost all religious words and rituals from our small ego position." So again, what Rohr is really showing us here is that there has to be a journey that goes on from the small self, which sees a world of winning, personal success, but the price of that is we stay in the small ego. A world of fear, concern, self-centeredness. We never truly open up to who and what we really are, which you could say is the light of God. Now, again, we can never just get there simply by accepting that, we have an ego and we have to move on from the world. We can go back to Moore for a bit of guidance here. He states, in order to go into sacred space, in order to be human and keep moving toward a fulfilling life, you need to, from time to time, face a destruction of your formless consciousness, and life world. And this requires a period of incubation. Now, what he means by incubation is a turning away from the world. And this is our first real challenge when we enter the spiritual path as men. We're not going to do it by being the big hero. That time may come, but that's God's decision what sort of hero you'll be and what the world will make of you. It might not like you. The real point is that we're willing to be incubated, sometimes known as being contained. And this can be a really scary process, because when we're contained, we're away from the world. Things are confusing. We're in the wilderness, to use spiritual language. We don't know which way to go, and it's necessary we don't know which way to go. Because say some great teacher comes along and says, "Oh, you've got to go that way." Well, that's all well and good, but you're not really learning anything. You're going to have to fall flat on your face and learn the hard way sometimes. As Moore states down the line, paraphrasing Joseph Campbell, it is always scary if it's a real transformation. You'll know it's real transformation because you don't know the way, because society can't simply tell you the way. Because when you go to a therapist, you feel like they're just not getting me. They're not getting me. They're trying to give me psychological solutions for what is a much more profound problem. What you're being called by is the real call of God. And it's not that God wants you to feel pain necessarily. It's just that we're distanced from him. And when we're distanced from him, we're going to have to go through all of that drama and dark clouds in order to get back to his love, because we've been separated by him. Now, again, this leads us back to Moore, who has another really nice saying here. The first task of masculine spirituality, he states, is locating the centre with a capital C. Connecting with it, plugging into the sources of regeneration and creativity that are needed for life. And what he means by the centre, you could say in religious language, is God. But what he's really referring to is, again, the state of being before the ego identification. Now, we know the ego identification because it tends to revolve around sayings such as "I want" or "I'm jealous because." So it's all the me stuff. Now, your true essence, the real you, is a self as well, but it isn't a self of a small ego that views the world through its own bias. So what Moore is really showing us here is we need to go back to our very root sense of being, and the only way we're going to get there is by embracing challenge. Is by embracing the true hardship of challenge. And once we've done that, by going into a place of containment. Now, what does that containment look like? It may mean entering a new spiritual order. It may mean taking time out from work. It may mean being alone in the wilderness for a while. It may mean reading the spiritual masters. There are different methodologies and ways of doing this, and I intend to cover them all in the future of this channel, but especially on the Substack, where I really want to create journeys where people can actually start to embrace some of this. But it necessarily involves a turning away from the world, because if you're still in the world, it will pull you back in. that girl fancies you, you lost that thing, you won that thing, you're great, you're terrible. Everything else the world will tell you and the ego will buy into. It will grab onto it like an eagle. And that's something we really have to watch. So we need that space of containment. This is why I speak a lot about breakdowns are very often breakthroughs if properly understood. Maybe it's a breakup, maybe it's a bereavement, maybe it's an addiction, maybe it's some form of challenge you've had to face. And what life is telling you is you need to go on a period now of healing, of containment, away from the world. Like the butterfly, Start off as the caterpillar, go into chrysalis, and then you come out a different person. Once we've done that, we have a layer of toughness which is gifted to us, as well as a layer of wisdom. And remember, wisdom isn't knowledge. So nobody in the world can tell you this. And once you've got that wisdom, the world can laugh at you and you just won't mind, because it just doesn't matter. It's just, they're not responding to something that you picked up on. And when you hear someone speaking from that true spiritual center, you'll know immediately. You'll be like, that person has been on the journey that I have. Maybe not as far, maybe further, but you'll see the light come through. Again, to quote Richard Rohr, he states, once we've achieved this, it is no longer hard to live in a wounded world. You might have a sick body, perhaps, and you might have to bear the burden of our common and complicit humanity. He means our fallen humanity. But he suspects that the body wound or scar that a boy, and by a boy he means the pre-initiate, always carries after initiation, acts as an indelible reminder of the tragic flaw that is at the heart of everything. So again, that tragic flaw is the pain of the world, the pain that we have to go through, the flaws in ourselves, the things that others have done to us, the things that we've done to others, the tragedy of life. But once we go through the very centre of that tragedy, like Dante goes through the centre of hell, we evolve, we spiritually level up. So the first lesson here with regard to initiation is we must accept the harsh nature of reality. That's why in initiations in tribal cultures, they'll put young males through physical tests of endurance, bullet ants on your arm, jumping off extremely high things, doing great feats of daring that may injure you badly. But the point is, it's to take you through that journey of realizing life is hard so you can be an elder for the tribe who understands the brutality of life. You're not naive any longer. Now that doesn't mean you can't be full of love. In the modern world, we often think not naive means cynical. That's the modern world's interpretation. That's not the interpretation of love and initiation. We will get to love through great pain very often. It's the bittersweet nature of life. It's the great song of sorrow that leads to the love of God. But the point here is we must embrace these journeys of challenge, and in this day and age we can't go through initiations. Imagine a health and safety regulation if I said, come along guys to my initiation, I'm going to put bullet ants on your arm. That would be a court case pretty quickly and me out of business pretty quickly too. But what we can do is look to the challenges that life is giving us. And it always will give us challenges because life craves you to evolve. Life's love is calling for you to evolve. But you can run back off into the world of women and worldly success. And again, nothing wrong with having a nice girlfriend or a good job, good for you. But that's never really going to get your soul. Maybe it will for a few years. But in the final analysis, what your soul really wants is to go home into the light of God, total bliss, total oneness. And the way we find that is through our deep challenges, and the road is rocky, and that's why we need each other and our brothers. And these are the things we're going to cover in the later lessons, but this is lesson 1. It begins with harsh truth, life is challenge, and the wounding is the way. So the practical takeaway, is to realize that all of your challenges, deep down, despite their horror, are gifts. They're portals through which you can advance. If you want to connect with me on this more, do feel free to shoot me an email. Better yet, join the Substack and join the monthly calls. There's a lot planned there for the future as well. And please do subscribe to this channel, like and comment to try and get the algorithm moving if you'd be so kind. Other than that, do enjoy the rest of your day. And please do check out the next video in this series.